All right, so we're walking up to the new Lectric XP 3.0, and as you can hear in my voice, I'm super excited about this because once you have the top-selling e-bike in the United States for 2022, how do you make it even better? And I honestly believe this is going to be the top-selling e-bike for 2023. It's going to be the Lectric XP 3.0, and as you can see, it doesn't have that much of a different of a frame look like we did with the 2.0 or even the 1.0. And that was purposely done, and Levi and Robbie decided that they really wanted to stick to the frame design because it does just so well. And what they did was they listened to all the complaints, I would guess say, or suggestions that people had about the Lectric 2.0 and even the XP Premium or the X Premium that came out last year. They really wanted to make sure that they had something that they got all of the notes that they needed to figure out what bike people wanted. So let's go ahead and start with the front tires and the back tire. Actually, it has a 20-inch by 3-inch tire. So they've still gone with what I guess most of us will consider a fat tire, but not as fat as the 4-inch. And it makes the bike a lot more nimble. For all of us who had Lectric 1.0s with the 4-inch tires, some of us may have been disappointed when the 2.0 came out with having 3-inch, but to be honest, I've heard, and I agree, that the 3.0 or the 3-inch tires are actually a little better. They're more nimble. They don't really lose as much of the softness as the 4-inches had, and it makes the bike lighter. It's actually a little easier to go ahead and maneuver. So personally, I like it. I want to go ahead and also point out some of the other things that we come across here. First of all is we do have front suspension like the 2.0 had, but they've actually improved it. It actually goes from 40 millimeters to now 50 millimeters. But as you can see, that actual extra travel range does add for a lot more comfort as well. Now, one of the main things that I want to point out is if you notice, this rack is actually part of the frame. It's welded. So with these weldings here, it is a lot stronger. You can actually put a maximum weight of 150 pounds on it. And as you can see in some of the footage that we have here, my wife is sitting on the back there, and she's lighter than the 150 that's on there. But the fact that you can put a second person or a second adult on the back is a big benefit, and one of the reasons why they built this 3.0 bike. You still have the same similar frame design, and the other thing that they've been able to do is they've made a cargo bike. Now this is a cargo bike with a 150-pound max on the back here. Again, with the way that this frame is made, that is foldable. We have a lot of different cargo bikes competing with a lot of other brands that are out there, but how many of them actually made it foldable? Very few, and that's one thing that's been a huge improvement. One of the inspirations of this is that one of the owners of Electric e-bikes, he was at his friend's house. They wanted to go and get some lunch, went outside to the garage, and there's only one XP sitting there. So because there's two of them, they ended up jumping in a car, and he was a little frustrated about that. Why can't they have a bike that two people can ride on? So they didn't have to go just a couple miles down the street in a car and really make the ultimate E-type machine more versatile. And that's what this bike was actually inspired by. The other thing that we actually have here that's a big improvement, or a nice improvement, is 180 millimeter rotors. We still have mechanical disc brakes, and you know what? The 180 millimeters do add a lot of extra stopping power, or a lot smoother stopping power. Because this bike does or has the capability of going up to 28 miles an hour, you do have the ability to go really fast and need to stop pretty suddenly. Especially now if you're going to be carrying extra weight on the bike here, that is something that you want to be able to have is, of course, again, good stopping power. We still have the foldable pedals to make this, again, more compact. So you just stick this in, you can put this up, and that'll save you at least 3 inches on each side to make it even slimmer to stick in the car. And that's a really nice feature as well. And as you notice in some of the footage that I have with the unboxing, there are no tools needed when I pulled it out of the box. It pretty much comes 95% ready to rock and roll as soon as you get it out here. Now, I still do recommend going over all the screws if you have the ability to tighten things down, just in case, because who knows if shipping loosens anything else. This did not have any issues though, as I went through the bike before riding it, because we do quite a bit of testing going through hills and downhills, and we want to open up and get some speed on there, so we also make sure that I have everything tightened down. And this comes right out of the box ready to roll. One of the easiest things. As you'll also see within the video of the unboxing, I did put flat out tire sealant, and that is only because I wasn't sure if Lectric is still putting the slime in like they did in some of the other options on the 2.0. So I decided I'll just go ahead and put some in there and find out later if that was unnecessary or not. In my area, we have so many thorns. I've had already 5 flats And since using flat out, I don't get any more flat. So that's one of the reasons I put sealant on here. Now we still have the same basic headlight in the front here, but there are packages that can upgrade these items. And that's something that's actually really nice. We also have the same display here. Midday, this is what it looks like even with the sun on it. Multiple settings, we have our trip mileage and of course our voltage showing our battery, different levels. The current, when we're actually riding, we can actually see how much we're putting through the controller at that point. And you know, it's the basic settings here. This does a fantastic job, something that they haven't changed because there was no real need to make it any different. We also have the same type of battery input here. You can charge the bike just by plugging in here. It'll get you going after a few, I think it's about 5 to 6 hours charge. And then also, if you want to, you can actually unfold the bike, take out the battery and charge it outside of the bike itself. Like you can take the battery upstairs. I normally charge it inside the house, so I leave the bike in the garage while it's charging. And that's one of the things that's just very handy. And as we can see here, they made a nice size battery here. We have a 48 volt, 14 amp hour battery. So that's a 40% upgrade since the original 10 amp batteries that they had on even the 1.0s. So another great improvement that they actually did to this is they wanted to make sure that with the added weight that's going to be on this bike, that it could actually handle it without burning out. And so according to the stories that we've heard during testing and R&D with this, they actually still have the same power of 500 watt motor, but a different motor altogether, better designed, not to burn out through the hills. This bike was actually designed and tested on the San Francisco hills. And if you've ever been there, you know those hills are really deep. They've actually burned out a bunch of early controllers in the beginning and get this tuned to the point where they're confident that they're not going to have any problems with people running their motors and overheating and actually or having issues with motor control burnout. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn around the bike so we can get a better shot at some of the other enhancements that make this really cool. And we're going to start off with, actually, I just want to point out some things of the small attention to detail that I really love. This small little hook here will save so much aggravation of using a bungee and trying to find a place to hook the cord. Because if you look at the way most frames are designed, there's no place to actually hook something that'll stop sliding up. And this just little thing here just makes me really, really happy. So that's to keep in mind. They actually really did design this for cargoing, and they have so many different accessory packages available with the 28 mile per hour speed that you have here. It's going to be able to get you around pretty quick, and also with a lot of cargo on there if you want. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the motor here. Again, as you can see, it's a 48 volt, 500 watt motor. And they've redesigned this motor so that, one, it's a lot quieter. It's very noticeable how quiet it is, but also how powerful it is. And they've also done it through a lot of R&D research to make sure that they are making this bike or this motor or this whole system not burn out when you're loading it up and utilizing it to the way that they wanted you to utilize it. The other thing that we have here is the gearing ratio. They finally got the 11-tooth gear on the back here so that you're not air pedaling like we used to. And of course, that was something that they heard constantly, even from the 1.0 moving to the 2.0. But at the time, during supply chain issues or whatever it might have been, they really had a hard time getting enough of the 11-tooth that could supply all their bikes. And that was one of the things that everybody was using the 14-tooth, and so they made so much of it that it was easy to get. But the 11-tooth weren't as readily available, and they wanted to make sure that they could get gearing on every bike. And so in the past, they couldn't supply it. But now that the 11-tooth is in demand and they were able to get it, you will now have a bike that you can help push along without, you know, I mean, the more efficient you are by helping the bike, the longer your battery will last. So a lot of us like to actually keep on pushing our bike, you know, to keep maintenance. Also for exercise, it's a great way to do it. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about the one thing I'm not really excited about, and it's the seat. It's a beautiful looking seat, but I think it's harder than the old one used to be. It's not a deal killer in any which way or form. It's just that one of those things, I've been getting used to really comfy, soft seats. And this is more of a general seat, and it does, again, you can see, it does have some cushion to it, but it is really firm. And like I said, it's such a minor thing, but it is something that I thought, well, if anything there is to complain about this bike for me, it would be that I wish that they had put actually a softer seat on, or even the old one might have been a little better. I don't know, I gotta test the old one and the newer ones. But seats, again, that's such a minor thing. And it is also because they know a lot of people will go with larger seats and softer seats. And seat is kind of one of those things, feels different for everybody. There might be people who have actually no problem with this seat whatsoever. So, you know, you might as well go with something that's functional and let people upgrade along the way, keeping the cost down. So, transitioning to cost, this bike, amazingly, was put together with the one thought in mind, with all of the inflation issues that we're having right now in the US, supply chain issues, shipping freight containers skyrocketing earlier in the pandemic. They have been able to keep this below $1,000, and that is one of the reasons, or if not the main reason, I think this will be the top seller for 2023. Of all e-bikes out there, not only does it have absolutely phenomenal performance, but it also has a price point that is really affordable for any, if you're gonna get an e-bike that's gonna be a heavy used e-bike, you're gonna wanna go ahead and actually spend a good amount of money on it for quality parts. But Lectric kind of breaks that. You don't need to spend a really good amount of money to get the quality parts and performance, because they've got it under $1,000. This is where the competitors are really going to have to try to catch up on figuring out how they're gonna beat this bike. The other thing is that they do have an upgraded controller, and it was tested heavily again in the San Francisco hills, just to make sure that they weren't gonna have burnout issues. And they wanted to keep the controller small, and one of the reasons being is that if you made a controller any larger that had to fit in here, they couldn't fold the bike properly where it would fit in the box size that kept the cost down. I mean, even an inch more in any direction on the shipping box that it comes in would have jacked up the price enormously. So, you know, Robbie is actually their engineer there, and he worked really hard to get this bike, with him and his team, getting this bike the way it is, to make sure that it fits all the requirements that not only Levi wanted, but as far as the whole team wanted, to make sure it's a bike that's a price point that really keeps it nice and running as well as it does. One other thing that it still has here, like standard to all XP bikes, is that you do need to have the key in and turn, and it is actually kind of a safety feature. If someone tries to make off with this bike and you have the key, they're not going to be able to really do much with it other than ride it like a bike until they get a key that can be replaced on that. So that's something else to keep notice. I do have my little GPS tracking here, so just keep that in mind. That is not part of the bike here. This is so that every speed that you see on the screens is tracking my speed, not the camera bike speed. And other than that, the only thing else I added on here was a cell phone holder, which actually Lectric does have an accessory. And the only thing other than I would also be adding on to this is a water bottle holder, which you can actually find at ebikeproducts.com/shop. And we have accessories that are perfectly made for the Lectric XP. The other thing I would probably upgrade is a suspension seat post. Again, we do carry that on the ebikeproducts.com website. And other than that, this bike is rideable perfectly right out of the box the day you get it. I highly recommend you take a look at it. If you're looking for either your first or second e-bike and you're wondering what you should get and you need something that has a little more versatility, or you still want it to be foldable, this is something you can be looking at. And I highly recommend also looking at the different colors that they have, the options that are available, because they also have the XP Lite and the X Premium if you're looking for a higher end mid-drive bike as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'm so excited about this XP Premium. We're gonna go for a ride.